Homo sapiens, an evolutionary species that first appeared about 300,000 years ago, has since surpassed all other species in dominance of the planet. But how long can people survive? Humans will eventually become gone. Our species will likely continue for another billion years, but it will eventually become extinct when the sun's expanding envelope swells outward and heats the world to a Venus-like state. However, 1 billion years is a very long period. Microbes were the only species on Earth 1 billion years ago. Sponge evolution led to the emergence of multicellular life about 600 million years ago. Nobody knows what life will look like in another billion years, but a modeling study that was published in Nature Geoscience in 2021 suggests that by that time, the oxygen content of the Earth's atmosphere will be very low, making anaerobic microbes more likely than humans to be the last living things on the planet. If it's unlikely that humankind will survive to see Earth fried by the sun, when is it most likely that we will perish? According to Henry G., a paleontologist and senior editor at the magazine Nature who is writing a book about the extinction of humans, mammalian species typically endure for about 1 million years. The human race would then be relatively young. G believes that H. sapiens are an exception to these principles. He claims that humans are rather an exceptional race. We might live for millions of years, or we might all perish within the next week. There are numerous chances for catastrophe. A catastrophic asteroid impact, a world nuclear war, or the ravages of the climate emergency are all possible ways in which humans could perish. The most likely scenario, however, includes a confluence of disasters that could completely wipe out humanity because we are a resilient race. Choose your poison. Uncontrollable species predators include some. For instance, scientists explain how asteroids similar to the one with a diameter of 10 to 15 kilometers that wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs strike Earth roughly every 250 million to 500 million years in a study published in the journal Icarus in 2021. In a preprint paper published on the server archive.org, physicists Philip Lubin and Alexander Cohen estimate that, given 6 months' notice and an arsenal of nuclear penetrators to destroy the space rock into a cloud of harmless pebbles, humanity would be able to save itself from a dino-killer-sized asteroid. Lubin and Cohen advise humankind to give up and party, or move to Mars or the Moon to party, with less forewarning or a larger asteroid. The largest asteroid that could currently strike Earth, according to experts, is known as 29075-1950 DA. According to a 2022 risk estimate by the European Space Agency, it is only 1,300 meters across and has a 1 in 50,000 chance of colliding with our planet in March 2880. Despite potential threats from outer space, many of them, including nuclear conflict, the climate emergency, and ecological collapse, are caused by human activity. According to some AI critics, our own technology could kill us in the form of sentient AI that chooses to obliterate its creators. According to François Diaz-Morin, assistant editor for nuclear affairs at the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, a full-scale nuclear conflict could easily wipe out humanity. The United States was the only nation with nuclear warheads the last time humans used nuclear weapons against one another, eliminating the possibility of nuclear reprisal. Today, that isn't the situation, and the bombs are much bigger. These bombs, which exploded in 1945 and destroyed the Japanese towns of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, each contained the same amount of explosive energy as 15 and 21 kilotons of TNT. An estimated 110,000 to 210,000 people were slain by them all. According to Diaz-Morin, a single 300 kiloton nuclear weapon dropped on New York City today would murder 1 million people in just 24 hours. In contrast to a full-scale nuclear conflict between the US and Russia, which could result in an estimated 360 million direct deaths, a regional nuclear conflict, such as one between India and Pakistan, could kill 27 million people in the near term. After the war, when soot from enormous fires started by the bombings would quickly change the climate, creating a situation known as nuclear winter, there would be a danger to humanity's very survival. Although there may be less concern about nuclear winter now than there was before the end of the Cold War, according to Diaz-Morin, there would still be serious environmental repercussions. Even a small-scale nuclear conflict would harm the ozone layer, obstruct sunlight, and decrease precipitation worldwide. Depending on the size and quantity of detonations, the outcome would be a global famine that could kill more than 5 billion people in just 2 years. The potential of wiping out humanity is still present, according to Diaz-Morin. Death from environmental contamination or the climate catastrophe would be more gradual but still possible. According to Maureen Lichtveld, Dean of the School of Public Health at the University of Pittsburgh, chronic pollution is already putting human health at risk, and the extra heat brought on by climate change has made matters worse. People must breathe more quickly in hotter conditions to expel heat, which causes their airways to absorb more pollution. The climate catastrophe also worsens already existing issues with infectious disease and food security. Persistent drought, for example, can destroy cropland. Our worldwide population is being impacted by the interconnectedness of health inequities, climate change, and other inequities, according to Lichtveld. The ideal storm. Will the unfairness ultimately result in the extinction of the species? According to Luke Kemp, a study associate at the University of Cambridge's Center for the Study of Existential Risk, it is difficult to estimate the probability that, for example, the climate emergency will cause the extinction of humanity. However, Kemp asserts that taking each risk separately is probably not realistic. Kemp asserts that there is never just one event that causes a mass extinction or a societal breakdown in history. You have to write science fiction if you're trying to depend on a single silver bullet to kill everyone in a single event. Kemp asserts that the demise of humankind is much more likely to result from a confluence of disasters, a multitude of factors. Though viruses, bacteria, and fungi are frequently used in post-apocalyptic films to decimate large portions of the population, an individual pandemic is unlikely to wipe out humanity because the immune system is a robust and efficient line of defense, according to Amesh Adalja, an infectious disease specialist at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. Although a pandemic could be devastating and cause great upheaval, the Black Death killed between 30 and 50% of Europe's population. Adalja believes it's unlikely that a disease would eradicate all of humankind. Yes, he admits, a contagious illness could result in a large number of fatalities, but there will also be a subset of people who are resilient to it and live. The COVID pandemic gave humans the means to combat a disease through the use of medical interventions, vaccines, and social isolation techniques, according to Adalja. He cites the Christmas island rat, Rattus mccleri, also known as McClear's rat, an endemic island species that may have gone extinct due to the introduction of a parasite, as an example of a mammalian species that may have been completely wiped out by an infectious illness. Adalja asserts, "We are not powerless like the Christmas island rat who was unable to leave the island. We have the power to alter our course. If infectious disease plays a role in humanity's demise, it probably does so as a small part of a broader picture. Imagine a world where the effects of climate change and water level rise have severely impacted agriculture. In this world where the climate has been destroyed, humans try a geoengineering answer that fails. The predicament gets worse. Resources are limited, and many nations possess nuclear weaponry. Oh, by the way, in this situation, the mosquitoes that transmit yellow fever are now found as far north as Canada. According to Kemp, it's not difficult to imagine how the human population could decrease and eventually vanish in the face of a variety of difficulties. The study of worst-case situations is lacking, claims Kemp. In climate science, for instance, a lot of study is done on what the world might look like if it were 2 or 3 degrees Celsius warmer than it was before the Industrial Revolution, but very little is done on what it might look like if it were 5 or 6 degrees warmer. According to Kemp, this is due in part to scientists' difficulty in foreseeing the impacts of such rapid global warming as well as pressure from politicians to avoid coming across as alarmists. The cascading effects of a disaster are also frequently difficult to forecast using future worst-case scenario models. He claims that the subject of existential risk in general is still young, developing, and understudied. The degree to which people should be concerned about something as significant as extinction is up for debate. Others contend that the issues of today are more important than the question at hand, despite the fact that controversial tech billionaires like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel have funded organizations devoted to researching the dangers of transformative technologies. According to Sarah Cornell, a professor of global sustainability at Stockholm University, humans are already warming the planet, overusing and destroying nature, using land and water unsustainable, and producing chemicals that are harmful to all life, frequently for the benefit of the wealthy around the world. According to Cornell, the reality of today is that some individuals are undermining or even destroying the living conditions of many, many other people. From a human scale, this is already an existential crisis, not a danger that lies ahead.